I think I'm most excited about the potential of Bitcoin and just finding the solutions and our Bitcoin machine as one of those solutions.
That's Zach from Lamassu. They're making one of the Bitcoin vending machines that looks and acts kind of like an ATM, but isn't.
Banks already see ATMs as kind of replacing their business model of bank branches. And I feel it's kind of setting up Bitcoin for just saying, okay, thank you, that's a great idea, but we don't need banks anymore. So people are going to do most of their bankings through kiosks, but they don't really need banks for that anymore. To me, that's one of the big points. And it works just as well here in Manchester, New Hampshire, or New York City, or in South Africa, where people don't even have bank accounts, which, again, makes it easier for Bitcoin to take over.
When you talk about moving away from banking and towards a kiosk approach, you described what you've got as a Bitcoin machine rather than an ATM.
Right.
So there's clearly a distinction there. How come that? Why is that distinction important, and what does it mean?
To me, it's not important. For me, we call it the Bitcoin machine because that's just what we called it for now. I guess from a technical point of view, what ATMs do is they dispense of cash, and ours doesn't. It dispenses Bitcoin. So if there are certain regulatory issues regarding ATMs, in a sense, it's important for us to say, well, this isn't a standard ATM. It's not a traditional ATM. You put cash into our machine like you would do with any vending machine, whether it's buying a Coke or a chocolate bar, and instead you get Bitcoin. You can see it as a kiosk or a vending machine, but an ATM usually dispenses cash, and that's how people usually understand them. So it's more of a confusion thing. But everybody's been calling it the Bitcoin ATM, and there's nothing we can do about that anyway. So it's not like I won't understand what people mean if they talk about our Bitcoin ATM.
Clearly, one of the biggest problems that has been present in the Bitcoin ecosystem has been this difficulty of moving US dollars or whatever someone's local currency is into Bitcoin. So, I mean, ultimately, you're right. An ATM is a two-way street. You can put in a check, or you can put in cash a lot of times, and it can go into your bank account and that sort of thing. But it also goes the other way.
Mm-hmm.
So as a vending machine, this is really more of a one-way transit system where you're taking US dollars and moving them into Bitcoin. So, I mean, do you think that this is how that problem gets solved? Do you think that these machines, this type of machine, whether it be yours or something else, or what's going to be the pervasive solution?
I think it's one of the solutions, and I think a lot of people that have been interested in Bitcoin for a while, for them, that was always the big deal of how do we simplify this technology? Bitcoin's an amazing idea. How do we make it easy for people to get in and out and using Bitcoin? And so this is just one solution of many that are out there right now for Bitcoin solutions. I mean, BitPay, I think, is doing an amazing job for retailers, for making it easy for retailers to accept Bitcoin, where they can say, well, yeah, we can pay, you can have people paying you with Bitcoin, and you don't have to worry about what to do with those Bitcoin. So I think that's one great solution. And hopefully ours is another quality solution for obtaining Bitcoin and for getting people into Bitcoin that don't want to have to go through online exchanges. And maybe they just want to put in, $3 to try to see what's going on and how it works. You can't really do that with an online exchange. So you've got to commit. You got to say, okay, I want Bitcoin, and I'm going to put in $500, and I'm going to sign up, and I'm going to wait 30 days and hook up my account, and then it'll be a little easier. With this, if you have our machine at a convenience store, you go in, get a bag of potato chips, and put in $1, and you have Bitcoin.
So the person who owns the convenience store, do they also own this machine? Tell me about the model. How do these things work in actual implementation?
It would really depend on where these are being placed and the rules and regulations of the area. I mean, in my opinion, it would be great if some convenience store owner would just say, hey, I think this is a great idea. I'm going to buy one unit, connect it to my exchange, or just use the coins I've been mining, and I'm just going to run this machine. And it works for me because I want to accept Bitcoin because I don't like cash or credit cards, and I think Bitcoin is a better form of transaction. I think that would be a great solution. That may not be a great business model in countries where there's a lot of regulation. So that guy may not have anywhere between $10,000 to $10 million to put aside for handling all the regulation. And in a case like that, it would be probably best to have a middleman that would deal with those things and kind of have an umbrella regulatory status for all these convenience stores.
So now when you talk about highly regulated countries where that happens, are we talking about the United States?
Yeah, I think the United States is probably the most over-regulated country as far as Bitcoin as it seems right now. I think it's going to be easier pretty much anywhere in the world to just go ahead and run Bitcoin businesses or accept Bitcoin or exchange Bitcoin for small businesses or even large as it seems now. I think the U.S. will be an issue. It's interesting because obviously Americans are great entrepreneurs and always have been. And from the different requests we're receiving, we don't get a lot of requests for distributors in the U.S. We get requests from a lot of business owners, a guy who owns a cafe or has a friend who owns a couple of cafes, and they're really interested. And then we get requests from Canada, and it's like, I want to represent Western Canada for your machine. It's kind of a different approach, but in a way, it's the opposite of what's needed. What we kind of need in the U.S. are a few guys, somebody in California to say, I'm going to be handling all the regulatory issues, and I will lease these machines to cafes in San Francisco and handle all the regulations. But it's a shame because there are all these cool small businesses that just want to have these machines. And I basically have to tell them this probably isn't a good idea for you.
So if somebody's listening to this and they're like, wow, I could totally handle that regulatory side. I mean, so it sounds like you're actively looking for partners at this point, yeah?
Well, we are. And when I say partners, it's a little different than perhaps other businesses. I mean, we are just selling the machines right out. So we're not actually going to be providing any services. But I do think that would make more sense. So yes, we would be interested in distributors would be interested in buying a certain amount of these units, but more importantly, handling all the regulatory issues that have to be handled here in the U.S.
EasyDNS is a DNS provider and domain registrar that shares your values: flexibility, free speech, and control without lock-in. EasyDNS helps you meet your individual needs as the Swiss Army knife for domain names since 1998. Outspoken critics of SOPA and CISPA, EasyDNS was an early supporter of Bitcoin, which fits well with our values and those of our customers. Please support our sponsor and get a 13% discount when you pay with Bitcoin. Learn more at easycoin.com.
You're listening to Let's Talk Bitcoin, the premier audiocast providing news and insights that cover the rapidly evolving world of digital money. Our twice-weekly shows include analysis of late-breaking news, updates on key technical, business, and regulatory issues, and in-depth interviews with the key people driving the new digital economy. Let's Talk Bitcoin offers sponsors an attractive way to reach a targeted and savvy audience. For more information, email sponsors@letstalkbitcoin.com.
So are you public with what the machines cost or are going to cost? Do you have a release date for when, just anyone can buy them? What's the plan for the rollout?
Well, we expect a retail price to be around $5,000. The wholesale price will be lower. Those aren't absolutely final, but those are very close, in my opinion, to what the final price will be. We're still working on the last kinks of the design, so it's impossible to tell at this point exactly. And then as the second we know the final price, we will start accepting pre-orders, and we expect that to be just in a few weeks because we are intent on moving very fast with this. We expect to have a short production run around end of summer, I would say late August, maybe beginning of September. All goes well, probably within a month after that, we'll have our first production run of say, 50 or more.
Taking a step back from this project for a second, onto kind of the broader picture of Bitcoin. If you're throwing your time behind a Bitcoin vending machine like this, I'm really curious to know kind of where you think that we're going. Not super far out, let's not do that, but, over the next maybe 18 months. I mean, do you have any sort of predictions for things that are going to happen?
I think we can expect to see, in a sense, more of the same, which is the Bitcoin price will keep being crazy. It'll go up, it'll go down. But I think that's less important. And what I do think is that more and more people will start to understand and use Bitcoin. I expect to see a lot more retail services expecting Bitcoin directly instead of necessarily having third-party services that act as a middleman. And I expect other countries to really start getting into it. Exactly where I expect Bitcoin to be in 18 months, I don't really have a prediction, but I definitely do expect there to be both, I guess, more widespread actual use and probably due to the services that are starting to come out now and will come out. And there'll be more exchanges, of course. That's pretty much all I have in my head right now. I expect things to be clearer from a regulatory standpoint as well, probably even more so in the rest of the world, such as Europe and Australia and New Zealand and Canada and such. And here, it's hard to tell. I would say that it's off to a shaky start as far as regulation is concerned here in the U.S.
Getting further outside the U.S., you mentioned that there are more barriers here than there are in other parts of the world. Have you had specific contact with people from other parts of the world, talking about models that they want to set up or ways that they want to use your machines? Or just in general, I'm curious what the outside the United States perspective is.
Yeah, we've had probably the most interest from Canada, and they're all looking into the regulatory status. Some of them think that they don't have to do anything at all for our machine after speaking to lawyers. Some just want to look into it a bit more. In general, they're just a good amount of distributors that are interested in putting these machines all around the large cities and in retail spaces mostly, be it cafes or convenience stores, bookstores, etc. And the same is true. We've had requests from all over the world, including places like Malaysia, Thailand, Pakistan, Libya, Israel, and of course all of Europe, Australia, New Zealand. Really all around the world. It's been pretty exciting.
And so your machine is capable of taking, with minimal modifications, any of these local currencies?
Right, exactly. That's one of the reasons we chose the exact hardware that we're working with, is we wanted one that we would be able to just ship anywhere in the world. So some small country in Africa needs 2 machines, we can just, send it UPS or even put it into the post office and just ship them the machines. And that's kind of the idea. We wanted them to be small. We wanted them to be global. We wanted them to be affordable for a small business anywhere in the world.
And if people want to get involved or want to purchase a unit or kind of get in touch with you about that, what's the best way to do that?
Our website and my email. It's www.lamassubtc.com. Lamassu is Lamassu BTC.com.
Lamassubtc.com. Zach, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Adam.